Welcome, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Garden City Planning Commission. It's Thursday, June 12th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and our first order of business is pledge allegiance to the flag. If everyone would stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Would the secretary take the roll call, please?
Yes, Chairperson May.
Here.
Commissioner Steenberg, he's asked to be excused. Commissioner Walls.
Here.
Commissioner King.
Here.
Commissioner Williams has asked to be excused. Commissioner Bazzi has asked to be excused. Commissioner Daniels.
Here.
Right. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum of 4.
Okay, thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. If we can have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, but I would like to suggest an amendment.
Okay.
At last Monday City Council meeting, the proprietors of House of Dank approached the council and asked that a amendment to the zoning ordinance would be considered to allow them to be open on Sunday. And my recommendation for the approval of the agenda is, could we add to H1 with a C to have discussion on whether we would want to have a public hearing on that topic?
Okay, I'm sorry. Who was requesting this?
The proprietors of the business approached City Council and it suggested
What
that.
business was that?
That's the House of Dank. That's the
Adult use marijuana.
The adult use marijuana by
Operator.
Stu Evans.
Okay.
I guess Garden City is an outlier, that we're unique in that we do not allow them to open on Sunday. And so my only suggestion today is that we have a place on the agenda to have a conversation on whether we would even want to have a public hearing. Maybe now's not the time, maybe it is, but I thought at least we would have addressed the public feedback.
Okay, if there's no objections,
Well, can we have a support, please, for that motion?
I'll support it.
Right, thank you. Right.
all right, any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll add that after the item 2 on the agenda and have a discussion for a possible public hearing to consider the opening of Sunday use for that business. Take the roll, please.
Yes. Commissioner Daniel, I'm sorry, Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Walls,
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels. Aye. Chairperson May.
Aye.
Motion does carry with 4, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do we now get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Yeah, I think we're good on that one.
That's what we did. Yes.
Okay, that was with the whole agenda? Okay. Then moving on. Next item is approval of minutes from the regular meeting of May 8th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of May 8th, 2025.
Support?
Support.
Any questions, comments, or changes? Hearing none, take the roll, please.
Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Walls,
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels. Aye. Chairperson May.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is public comment on non-agenda items only. If there's someone here who wishes to comment on an item that's not on our agenda, this is the time where they can come forward and make those comments. Seeing no one, we'll move on. First business item. Number 1 is PP 225-0003, request for a special land use and site plan approval to construct a multi-tenant commercial building with a drive-through window at 28484 Ford Road in the C3 General Business Zoning District. Okay, can we start out with our consultant's report, please?
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. We're here tonight to consider this special land use and site plan review, which will be familiar to some of you. This is a 19,165 square foot lot located on the north side of Ford Road, west of Harrison. The site is currently vacant, but it was previously, and the previous structures on the site have been demolished, although some curb cuts and parking areas remain from the previous drive-through use. The applicant is proposing to construct a 3,385 square foot, two-tenant commercial building. One of the primary tenants would be, the primary tenant would be on the west side of the building, a Dunkin', now they just go by Dunkin' restaurant, with a drive-through service window. Now, while the site did operate in the past as a drive-through for a hamburger restaurant, the current zoning ordinance does require special land uses review and approval for any drive-through use in the C3 district. So that's why they are here tonight. And actually, this property owner has proposed a similar use in the past, but they've never completed the review and approval process. So therefore, that's another reason why they've started again with this proposed project. So with regards to special land use within the zoning ordinance, we have our general criteria. As mentioned, the planning committee, well, I should mention, previously the planning commission has recommended approval of the special land use for the site for this type of use and configuration. So going over briefly my points from my review letter. When it comes to special land use, the first item we always look at is compatibility with adjacent uses. And basically, the site is directly adjacent to properties that have a similar level of activity as this proposed use. There's a drive-through to the west. There's other commercial activity drive-through to the east. Other commercial activity to the west, and as proposed, we do believe this facility would be compatible with those other commercial uses. In addition to the fact that while there is residential property to the north, it is a multifamily residential, and once again, those sites have been historically located adjacent to commercial property. So this configuration is found throughout the city, and therefore we do believe reestablishing a drive-through on the site would be compatible with these uses. We also look at the master plan. The master plan designates the site as mixed use. And while the mixed use category is intended, one of the intents of the mixed use category, I should say, is that this location is intended to begin a transition from those general commercial uses on the east side of town, from Inkster to Harrison. The intent is to begin a transition to a more mix of uses, more dense configuration of uses as they approach downtown at Ford and Middlebelt. So this is like that area to create that transition. So while there are generally a majority of uses to the east that are single-use sites operated by just one use on the property, so therefore this establishment would create multiple uses on the site. So it's an attempt to, we do believe that's a reasonable attempt to continue to provide different alternatives and a mix of uses on the property. So it can be construed as being compatible with a master plan. There are other aspects that are similar characteristics for the special land use approval that are in my review letter. I'll just point out one aspect is the impact on traffic. So the applicant is proposing to relocate there is an existing curb cut onto Ford Road on the east side of the property. They're proposing to shift this to the east and then construct a new curb cut on the west side of the site. So this would allow for a circulation plan where vehicles would enter on the east, either go into the building or use the drive-through window, and then exit on the west side of the property in a outward motion. And this is generally relatively convenient and efficient method of utilizing that drive-through window. We have indicated to the applicant to speak with Michigan Department of Transportation, which is as regulatory authority for Ford Road, and they have had initial discussions. There is, I believe you do even have some emails, discussions with MDOT from the applicant, and they've generally been, have indicated they are acceptable of this configuration. And even with that addition of a new curb cut, MDOT seems to be fine with that. So in the end, given the history of the site, given the past approvals, given the existing land uses and the proposed future land use, we do recommend that we do advise the Planning Commission to recommend approval of this proposed multi-tenant building with the drive-through restaurant to City Council, based on compliance with the standards of approval, but contingent upon site plan approval for this site. So those are the comments I have on the special land use requirement for the drive-through window, and I can go over the site plan issues at this time or after discussion of the special use aspect.
Is there any discussion on special land use recommendations?
So I guess maybe one question, and maybe this is for the site plan review itself, but can you just remind me, why is the special land, it's because of the drive-through specifically?
Correct, yeah.
So because of the homes that are directly to the north, and I know there's a KFC right to the east, right? But there are also 3 homes right to the north. So is that something we would normally do a public hearing, or, like, would these residents know that there's a
Yes.
special land use request out right now?
Yes. We will be holding a public hearing in a moment here.
Oh.
Yeah. And they have been mailed. Every property owner within 300 feet of the property has been sent a notice of the drive-through request, and it was advertised in the Detroit News and Free Press. And, and they will have the opportunity to comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is that?
As if for the special land use items, I mean, I can go over the site plan issues if you want, or we can wait.
Well, we should move on. I think probably before we do the site plan issues, we'll go to the public hearing. And
Should we just, should we reflect in the minutes that the applicant is not present?
Well, actually, we do have a representative.
Oh, I'm
are
sorry.
you the applicant?
Usually the applicant's sitting there.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, if you're done with your report.
Yes, sir.
Then if the applicant would care to come up and make their presentation?
This is Andrea Bader. She is the architect from Jeffrey Scott Architects. Right,
Okay.
thank you.
I really don't have a presentation. Any questions I can try to answer for you guys.
Okay, well, one of my questions was about the finishes on the building, the fiber cement
cement
siding. And we don't have any elevations that show the colors or anything.
I sent color elevations.
The elevations we have actually were black and white, so they have
thought
the
I sent
notes for the
colored
color.
one.
They have the notes for the colors. I don't know if I.
Okay.
Have a
I
colored
thought for
version
sure I
of it?
sent the color ones as well, along with the packet. They were 11 by 17, I thought.
Oh, in the 11 by 17, are they?
They were smaller ones. They weren't, I don't think they were
Yeah,
full-size.
Elevations are just,
That's it?
yeah.
Okay.
There's 2 pages.
I have 85.1.
Okay, they must not have got included in the set.
So the colors are noted on the
Colors.
elevations, and I can reference them, but there just aren't any
I can-
colored renderings, so that's all.
Right, I thought for sure I sent those. I can send them to you guys, so it's easier for you guys to
Well-
tell. It's mainly
Okay,
gray.
maybe if you could just go over your plans for the building colors.
Okay. I think the main colors are supposed to be white and gray. And then I can't really see this. I don't know what the color is.
And which part of the building would that be? Which part of the building would that be? Are the large walls with the horizontal siding, is that white? Or-
Okay, if you look at the west elevation, I think the main part of that will be gray.
So that large wall would be gray? Mm-hmm.
And
what?
then usually the bump out that says Garden City runs on Duncan, that'll be a honey color. It's like a light brownish color. It's
Like
simulates
a wood tone.
It's like a wood
noted
tone.
as wood tone.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And then the bigger panels, I believe, are either white or gray. Like, I really can't read this.
Can I ask while you're looking, is there a template? So if we were to look at another store, and you'd say, yes, it's exactly like this store,
It's-
is there one that
it'll be
comes to
close,
mind that we
yes.
could look up?
Yep,
It's like the one over on Wayne, you know that one?
yes.
They're real similar to that.
They're all going to be similar.
Duncan has a kind of a motif,
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wayne and Plymouth. You know that Duncan one?
Yeah, they just remodeled that one recently, I think.
They have
Why that's not
the
colored?
rectangular panels that are like, basically more like a large rectangle. Those are gray pewter. And then the larger but narrower horizontal planks are supposed to be the off-white. And then they also have, like she mentioned, the bump out is going to be a wood tone
Tone.
to the actual siding. And then along the east-west and north elevation will be more of a standard 4-inch-ish horizontal siding that's going to be a gray, a pewter gray as well. So it's like a standard pewter gray around the 3 elevations, but the Ford Road elevation will have the 3 colors on there.
And then the little channels along where it says Duncan are the orange and pink and white strips. If I
Okay.
can find one that looks, none of these look like it.
So do you mind approaching, is the color palette the same? This is the Wayne.
That one is going to
Okay.
Is it more like this one?
We're all searching.
similar, but the.
Slightly different.
Yeah, the monolith is different.
Okay.
I'm really sorry, I thought I had sent the color elevations.
Meanwhile,
along
we
with
know
this.
that typically large-scale corporate restaurants have the same features. Personally, I do like the idea of them being slightly different, using the same color palette or materials, but a slightly different configuration. At least that allows for some,
Great.
creativity and loss of monotony you might normally see on the sites. So, and generally speaking, it'll be modern in style and character, but it's starting to be repetitive, I guess you would say.
Okay, other than the color, is there any questions for the applicant?
I had a question about the curb cutout. So in the email with MDOT, it says on page 3 from the city, says that easterly driveway would be constructed as right-in only, no left turn into the property, and the westerly one would be a right-out only, no left turn allowed out of the driveway. Some of the other email chain later said that there was an in-person discussion. So I
Yes.
don't know if some of that was discussed.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We discussed all of it. We went and met with them, and they agreed to have us in only and out only, but
A bidirectional.
non-restricted access
Okay.
each way.
Okay.
That's
there
why the
would be-
one is a little bit smaller
Mhm.
than what's there now,
Okay.
so to help
The,
prevent people from coming in and out.
The
That
drive width would be minimum of 18 feet, is that
Yes,
correct?
That's what's on the drawings on
it has it.
ASP-1. On the enter, and then 22, and then
And you would also provide signage at each?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's noted, yep, directional signage.
Yeah, that's noted there as well.
On one side, it'll say "do not enter," so they can't go out, and on the other side, it says "welcome," or whatever. Same with on the other end.
Is there any other questions that we have for the applicant?
So with the ordering system on the north side, facing the residential, I know there's the sound screening on the back. Did we have any concerns about that facing the residential?
Yes,
He has a
it
comment.
would be, we do know in the site plan issues, yeah, that it would need to be installed with a volume control option. And there are other issues with the menu board as well that I can get into. But
Yeah.
but yes, it would definitely be a concern that we try to mitigate as best as possible, that it still functions, but it's not obtrusive to the residents, so.
Okay. Was there anything else you'd like to add for us?
No, if you have
No?
any more questions for me.
If your approval, or if or when your approval goes through the council, how soon would you be starting construction?
We still have to submit for permits, obviously, so probably in another month or two.
Okay, so sometime this year yet?
For sure, yep.
All right, if there's no other questions and you have nothing else for us, you can have a seat.
Okay.
And we'll open the public hearing. And if anyone wishes to speak during the public hearing, they could come forward now. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing at 6:53. Or one other thing, do we have any written communications concerning this?
Yes, we had one written communication email to the city clerk objecting to the proposal. They live on Crowder, and they're objecting to it. They were within the 300-foot radius.
Okay. Was there anything specific about their objection,
The
or?
objection is noise, litter, smell, for the most part. So,
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if the plans weren't present, but the wall is part of the plan, so I don't know if that may assist or not, so.
Do you have the street number of that resident?
Kind of right behind 28443 Crowder.
Okay, yeah, that's directly behind.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hearing that, we'll close the public hearing again and move on to the commission discussion recommendation for the special land use recommendation. Do we have any comments or discussion from the commission?
No?
I mean, I think the discussion around the site plan itself and the speaker and the signs and all of that, we can probably get to, but I don't have anything on the special land use specifically.
Okay, well, if we want to move on, then we can make this a recommendation for approval with the contingency of site plan approval. Someone cares to make the motion?
I will make a motion regarding PPZ 25-0003, request for special land use contingent upon site plan approval to construct a multi-tenant commercial building with a drive-through window at 28484 Ford Road.
Second.
Made and seconded, recommendation for approval. Any comments on the motion? Hearing none, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Walls,
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels. Aye. Chairperson May.
Aye. Okay, moving on to site plan review. Mr. Ortega, you want to start us off?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So with regard to the site plan review, we have touched on some of the informational items I wanted to bring to you, most notably some of them being the architectural design of the building. As I mentioned, as we've discussed, it's going to be this fiber cement panels. They are very durable. They can be very attractive. They are modern in size, and they're very modern, contemporary. The only thing I just noted is that sometimes, while we don't have a lot of these type of buildings yet in the city, there tend to be more of these in the region now. So it's just a note where that's one aspect that we'll have to consider, that maybe at some point in the future this might become dated. A couple things I just want to point out first for information to the applicant is just that, as noted in my review letter, so the applicant is proposing that with the configuration of 17 parking spaces. There's going to be 4 employees for the Dunkin', but based on a 400 square foot dining room / standing area, which is the requirement for carry-out restaurants, they would require 8 parking spaces. So generally speaking, that would mean 12 parking spaces are allocated for the Dunkin'. So that leaves 5 parking spaces available for the second tenant in the facility. So while that might be appropriate and could fit a office use or a retailer, if it was to be another carry-out restaurant, which we tend to see more happening in our commercial properties, that it could still work, but the pickup area in a carry-out restaurant would be very minimal. So I'm just making the applicant aware that might impact their tenant allocation in the future. And this is something we've been working with other property owners in the city. For example, some of the newer construction ones, they wanted to have a little bit more carry-out restaurants than basically the parking lot could handle. But that's okay because they're just made aware of it at the time, and the allocation of the tenants is just based on the market conditions and who they can find in the site. So I just wanted to point that out right from the beginning for the applicant. And then the other thing being that, as noted, with regards to the residents on the north, the zoning ordinance does require a screening wall. The applicant is proposing the screening wall that is required, 6-foot masonry. The one thing I noted is that they are indicating, it seems like it's pretty close, if not on top of, the existing sanitary sewer line that goes through there. Now, it has to be field verified, so once it gets field verified, it might not be an issue. But the screening wall is required, so it might need to be shifted either to the north or potentially to the south if that sanitary sewer line is there, because there's no, the screening wall is required. It's a requirement. And the zoning ordinance specifically states if a utility is in the way, then the wall just has to become further on the private property outside of the easement, in a location that is acceptable to whomever holds the easement, this case being the city. So just making them aware, because if for some reason that occurs in the future, that it's right on the spot, they might have to readjust the building location and even possibly. But that's just something that tends to happen during the construction phase. But one thing, I want to make them aware of it right now. So then we're getting to the issues of any necessary revisions to this. One kind of an important aspect is 2 tandem items. We would like to see and require a truck maneuvering plan for the site for not only emergency vehicles, but also any kind of loading delivery vehicles, I should say, because technically the zoning ordinance requires a 10-foot by 50-foot loading zone. The Planning Commission does have the authority to modify that requirement as necessary based on the use on the site and based on their proposed use, the needs of that current use, and the hours of the delivery. They have noted that note on sheet C102 states that the loading will occur during non-business hours. In our experience, that's something difficult to contain to control with delivery vehicles. Some others also indicate that they would not utilize tractor-trailer vehicles. While we do applaud that, if that's what's going to happen, that's also difficult to control as well, but we'd like to see, we would see the applicant respond to what would be the proposed solution for deliveries, because having a tractor-trailer vehicle back up into Ford Road is just not an option in that location. It's just so busy there. So we'd have to try and figure out what their solution is for loading. And that we think is going to be very important. And then other things, some minor, not minor, but some informational items. With regard to landscaping, based on the size of the lot width, they actually need 6 trees and 18 shrubs, so the landscape plan should be revised. In regards to lighting, there's a little inconsistency between whether the height, the pole would be 20 or 25 feet from grade. So we just like that inconsistency of the pole light fixture height adjusted to not exceed 25 feet from grade. And then when it comes to the drive-through requirements and the speaker volume, we do request that they have a control fitted and noted on the detail for the menu board. And also we found with these new menu boards that are basically TV screens, their light levels can get very high at night. So we do recommend the installation of a photo cell with automatic dimmer so that the menu board gets automatically dimmed whenever, obviously at nighttime, but whenever there's a storm or something like that, you know, those can get dimmed so that way there's no ambient light or glare going. With the screening wall, it'd be very minimal, but just that idea of trying to have that one extra layer of protection for residents we think is important. So those are the 5 items we recommend as, but in the end, we do feel that this proposed use will benefit the city, provide some additional dining options for residents, and then also, in the end, remove a long vacant site in the city. So we do recommend approval contingent upon a solution found for the loading and delivery, and those 3 other items for information for revised site plan.
Okay. Do you have any comments about any of the recommendations that are in that report that you have yet to comply with?
Let me see.
How much landscape?
We will provide a truck turn plan. We just didn't have time to get it done for tonight. I was going to try to get it done, but we didn't have time to get it done. So we can provide that so you guys can see the fire truck and then any other vehicles that are going to go around the site. So we can do that. We will fix the inconsistency on the light pole note. We can provide the additional landscaping that was required.
Yeah, it would appear as if on your landscape plan, there were some areas where additional landscaping could be added. There were
Yeah.
some blank spaces there.
It's kind
what
of
was the
tight
other
right
thing?
It is. It might be necessary to put some of the trees along that eastern property line because just the amount of space available, but we can work with the applicant to find an appropriate place for those. But you're right, it's a
Yeah.
little tight right now.
Yeah.
And then for the drive-through order board and equipment, we are checking with Duncan to make sure that they have the equipment that can do that, the sound volume and the,
And the photo cell.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't think you had shared, what are the intended hours of operation?
They are, did we put it in the report?
I think it said
I think
someplace
it's-
there.
4 to 8.
Is it in the narrative?
Is what
Yeah,
I see.
4 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily.
The drive-through would be open at 4 a.m.?
That's normal for Dunkin'.
Yeah.
The drive-through would be open at 4 a.m.? Okay.
Yeah, he told me 4:30 to 5 o'clock is when I asked him this morning. They'll be open.
And your deliveries would occur at periods when the store is closed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what type of trucks they use normally to deliver?
You know what, I don't know the exact size of the truck. We can find that out and put it on the truck turn.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say about the site plan?
I don't think so, unless you have any more
Okay.
questions for me.
If we have any more questions, we'll ask.
Perfect.
No other public here, so we'll move on. Planning Commission discussion and action. Any discussion or comments about the application for the site plan?
I don't have any issues with it. I thought the landscaping adding would be a little much, but, because you're trying to keep those signs and everything visible, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, I think if you're willing to do this, I think possibly we could have you administratively, if we approve this, take a look at the landscaping plan and see what can be done with it.
Yes, absolutely. We can work with the applicant, probably focus more on having the shrubs in the front of the building,
Yeah,
with maybe
some
one or two
lower
trees.
shrubs
And
rather
then, yeah,
than-
exactly, lower shrubs, and then the trees could be on the, like I said, there's a landscape buffer between their site and KFC. That looks like big enough for trees, so that could accommodate the additional trees,
Yeah.
so it doesn't block anything. And then it's beneficial too, because then the trees will eventually provide shade on the parking lot, so. One item, Mr. Chairman, if I might point out again, with regards to the loading zone and the delivery, I should say, the delivery vehicles. One aspect I put in my note was maybe a recommendation for the commission that your approval also be contingent upon the delivery vehicles, maybe needs to be reworded, but by making sure the delivery vehicles do not back up or cause congestion onto Ford Road, because that, and if they do in the future, that would constitute a violation of the site plan. Just wanting to get that on the record now, because we have had some difficulty with other sites where they have one proposal that they feel could work for their deliveries, but then they end up going with a standard configuration of just having delivery vehicles all over, and utilizing the right-of-way rather than being able to make that extra operational and management effort to work with delivery companies to make sure they deliver to their site with whatever they need, whether it's box trucks or smaller or at night, but a lot of times we get, mainly because lately I've been seeing a lot of Dunkin' down on Ford past Wildwood. I've been seeing semi-trailers delivering over there, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine they do use semi-trailers but that would come with the maneuvering plan to make sure that trucks can
Sure, semi.
maneuver around the building.
Yes.
So if that's going to be a necessary item to be part of that plan,
Yes.
as well as fire trucks and emergency vehicles. Any other comments or questions about the site plan?
Should we have any other discussion about a potential tenant? Like what kind of business that, just,
Do we have any
Don't
idea?
know.
No? Okay.
but can you give us just it'd be food service, some kind of food service? Okay.
I think it was going to just be for lease. I talked to him before, he didn't have any idea,
Just seems like such a small space,
yeah,
I don't know what.
phone store, something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
That's kind of what I think would fit, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
not sure.
kind of limited with parking. and-
Right.
Insurance office or something, something
Yeah, it really is.
little
I don't,
use.
a lot of them have ice cream
Yeah.
next door, but having that, I don't know if that would work with the parking situation either.
We would basically work with whoever the new tenant would be, if they wanted to be a carryout or ice cream. In theory, it could work. They would just have to, when they configure the floor plan, just have it very restricted area
For the number of
For the number of
customers in the building.
customers. So it won't encourage people to linger, and it won't encourage that sort of thing, unfortunately. But if it was an office, it makes sense, honestly, because,
Yeah.
the size of that building would fit 2 to 3 office workers, and real estate, insurance, something like that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Kind of speaking to the written letter from the public with the trash being an issue, is there anything in the drawings denoting like a public waste receptacle or anything
On the outside of the building?
on the outside of the building?
No, I don't think so. We have a.
Isn't there a dumpster enclosure included in the back?
Yeah, in the back.
Yeah.
But as for outside trash can, I don't think we have one noted. We can always note one.
Is that something-
And you can always add that as a condition of approval to have the site plan revised to note location of additional trash receptacles.
That might be good if there's going to be 2 potential restaurants there.
You mean for people driving through and then throwing their coffee cup away and things
No.
like that? or-
Parking and then eating and dining and then taking their cup and throwing it out if they're outside lingering in their car.
Well, in that case, there should be some outside receptacles for
Right.
trash.
I would think in front of the building or to the side of the building, have one or two.
Would have to be on the east side where all the parking is.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that could be included in the motion.
Yep.
Do we have any other issues or comments? Well, we have several contingencies that should be included, as well as the requirement for the delivery vehicles and outside trash receptacles. Someone care to make a motion?
One more question, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Does the outdoor lighting stay on all the time after dusk? Or
The outdoor what?
The pole lights, do they stay on all the time or are they dusk to dawn?
I don't know for sure on that one,
Okay.
what the requirements are.
Well, we do have requirements for the lighting to be basically contained on site
Okay.
Correct.
with our photometric plan, and you have adequate,
Yes, they have provided a photo,
Information.
they have provided a photometric plan. It is in compliance with our standards for minimum light levels, so that way it's safe. Our ordinance doesn't get that specific into those, the continued illumination of the site. It's something we need to address in the future, just as a side note. But as mentioned, the light level is contained on the property. So we're doing a lot, even though, we're doing a lot to try and control glare in the city. So it's an ongoing issue that we're always trying to address.
Was it? Yeah, no, I'm done.
okay. We're looking for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve site plan review with the addition of, we're going to handle this with you, right, Mario?
Yep.
The line items 1, 2, and 3 on the site plan recommendation on Mario's proposal here,
As well as
the delivery vehicle,
not backing out onto the street.
that amendment, and then also an outside trash receptacle on the plans.
Okay? Is there support?
I support.
Motion's made and supported. Any questions, comments on the motion? Take the roll, please.
Commissioner Walls.
Aye.
Commissioner King.
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels.
Aye.
Chairperson May.
Aye. Okay, your site plan is approved. The council still has to approve the special land use, and that, suppose they'll have a public hearing for that, too?
Actually, they don't need to for that.
They don't need to, okay. But either Matt or Mario will let you know when the item will be coming up on their agenda.
Okay,
So thank you.
thank you so much.
Wish you good luck.
I believe, though, it will be the 23rd.
Yes,
June
I can get it.
23rd is what we're shooting for.
Okay.
June 23rd at 7 PM.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay. Next item. PPZ 25-0005, request to establish and rezone the lot at 30719 Crowder Avenue from R3 Multiple Family Residential to C2 Community Business. Mr. Ortega, would you start us off?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As noted, this site is 30719 Crowder. It is a 9,940 square foot lot, about 75 feet wide. And currently, it's occupied by a 1.5-story, single-family, for-rent residential dwelling. The dwelling itself is about 1,200 square foot in ground floor area. The site is actually zoned R3 multifamily residential, and the applicant is proposing to rezone it to C2 neighborhood business. Within the letter, I noted the existing zoning, existing land uses, and future land uses of the site. And beginning the discussion with regards to whether this rezoning would meet the basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. One thing we're pointing out is that right now, just some additional information, the applicant owns this piece of property. They also own the medical office building to the south at 30730 Ford Road, as well as the adjacent parking lot to this site on the east, right at that corner of Crowder and Shatka. Should have known. Shatka. And the property to the south is Zone C2. The property to the east that is a parking lot is Zone VP, vehicular parking. And then the property to the west and north is zoned R3 as well, multifamily. And there are apartments on that property. It's a 2-story building, 2.5-story building on the west of this site. To the north, there are what I would call ranch townhouses or ranch apartment style apartments. It is a multifamily structure, but it's a single story with, I believe, 3 to 4 units in that property to the north. And it's a type of structure that's found along those several blocks right there. And basically, within the city, we've always had normally, for the majority of the city, for our commercial corridors, what we have is the commercial property fronting on Ford Road or on Middle Belt, and then to the rear of those properties is either single-family or multifamily property. So it's a back-to-back configuration. If this were to be moved forward, then you would have a configuration where a C2 designation is side-to-side with the multifamily and residential properties on the west of this site. Now, it doesn't happen often, that configuration, but there are a few locations in the city where this kind of extension into the residential areas occurs. The first example that came to my mind was that we do have the medical office building at Rain and Pardo. So that's 33111 Ford. It used to be the New Life Church. Now it's a medical office building. And that was conditionally rezoned to C1. But then it is adjacent on the side to a single family. So basically, within our zoning ordinance, we do have our standard requirements for providing the masonry wall along those rear property lines. In this particular configuration, the applicant would be required to install that masonry wall on the west side of the lot. In addition, they would have to provide a setback that's commensurate with the existing setback established on Crowder, so it would have to be a certain setback away from Crowder as well. And it would have to be a commercial building. It would have to be a commercial style that is consistent with our C2 properties, that offers opportunities for customers to enter the building. In this case, it would probably be the door would be fronting either on a Crowder or on to the west on the parking lot. And so basically the question before you tonight is whether you feel that, if you feel it's appropriate and if you can determine that this side-to-side relationship created by this rezoning would provide the equal protections that we have for our normal rear-to-rear configuration. One other aspect to point out I just wanted to mention is the future land use designation. The master plan designates this site and then all property to the east, west, and south as mixed use. in it, and then property to the north is designated as multifamily residential. Then within the master plan, it states that it offers alternatives for mixed use, that mixed use category. They could designate the areas, and these mixed uses within the land use category, they could be uses that stand alone. They could be uses that are located next to each other, so residential next to commercial, or they could be located within the same structure. Now, typically, within the mixed use, and the effort of the city has been to have a mixed use configuration where commercial is, and commercial is located on the first floor, and then we have a second or third floor with the residential above. That's typically what we have. But the master plan does leave the door open for this potential of commercial next to residential within the mixed-use designated area. So once again, it is something that's not necessarily conventional with our but it is something that we have seen in a couple other sites in the city. And the idea being to allow for more commercial residential property, commercial property intermingled with residential in areas. And so it's a matter of whether the Planning Commission feels it's appropriate to allow for this in this particular location with this particular situation. The other questions with regards to the zoning rezoning, they're pretty straightforward, but there is not a mistake within the zoning ordinance that is requesting the rezoning. This isn't an inequitable situation corrected by this rezoning. It wouldn't be an exclusionary zoning that would limit a district. So once again, in the end, the question before you is if the Planning Commission determines that this proposed rezoning is consistent with the basic intent of the zoning ordinance and is consistent with the goals and objectives of the master plan, you could make a recommendation of approval to the City Council.
Okay. Well, I don't really think it's appropriate to inject commercial properties into a residential area. For one thing, in addition to the couple of multifamily units you mentioned, there are also quite a few single-family units in that same area.
Yeah, to the north, there are 3.
Yeah,
at
on
least
that
3
block. And
on
then
that
there's
block.
some more down
True, yeah.
east of Shatka, too. And the one example that you mentioned that we do have the church on Ron and Pardo, in that example, all of the activity from that business is centered on the Ford Road side.
Right.
People enter the building from the Ford Road side, they park their cars on the Ford Road side, and they don't have to exit onto Pardo at all. And there's not even any pedestrian traffic created towards Pardo. And there is quite a setback from Pardo to the building.
Yes, it's a standard 30-foot setback.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least that. So I don't think that would be the same situation that we would be creating here. I'm just not in favor of imposing the commercial activity on the residential area.
Do you know why he's requesting a C2?
Well, C2 would be consistent because at least the C2 to the south. So if he requested C1 or C3, it would be a little bit more of a spot zone situation where it would be standing on its own. The applicant, which was advised of the meeting tonight, I'm not sure why they're not here. They indicated they would be here this evening. But the applicant has discussed tearing down the existing single rental dwelling and constructing a building that can continue the medical aspects that they have, meaning they would have it for either retail or a retailer for medical supplies and equipment is one aspect they're trying to do. It might be a lot of internet-based activity, but they're made aware that as a C2 zoning, it would have to have some type of customer entry into the building. That's the other aspect of the C2. It would have to be a commercial building. And Fred, I agree with you that while the least intrusive and least impactful on adjacent residences would be to ensure that these entrances and all the other function of the site is oriented to the east and to the south. To just make everyone aware that currently we don't have specific requirements within the zoning ordinance for that kind of building configuration and use configuration. I believe that this has occurred in other sites because it just makes sense from a marketing standpoint. Why have a site focused on other locations when the commercial benefit is along Ford Road? But technically, we don't have any requirements currently that would require them to do that. So that's another aspect to consider, that they would be going in and not have a requirement at this time. But as mentioned, I believe they want to do at least right now, they're proposing that. But also one other aspect, just to make everyone aware, as a standard rezoning, this is something where if it does get approved for C2, they would be allowed to establish any permitted use that's within the C2 district, and they would be allowed to request any special land use that's permitted in the C2. So that in it
Include a auto repair garage.
Through special land use, yes. They would be allowed retail uses, they'd be allowed office uses, they'd be allowed service uses like hair salons and that sort of thing. And then they would also be allowed a carry-out restaurant by right in the C2, and a sit-down restaurant. And then, forgive me, I'm going to the district to confirm the other permitted uses in the district. I do believe auto repair is permitted as special land use, but it is something that they could request.
Wouldn't the special land use be better from the standpoint we're looking at?
Correct.
As in, now they can't, if it rezones the C2, they'll have a field day on that one.
Well, they could do anything they want that's allowed under C2
Yeah.
if we approve it.
Yeah.
So they would have to come, and I would think the special land use criteria gives the planning commission the power to require, to require that extra level of protections for residents. And actually, other aspects of them specific to minor auto repair, we actually have because we had the review and approval for Hollywood Sound, to one block to the east. And when that came in, our zoning ordinance requires a 40-foot setback from any minor auto repair from any residential zone property. So technically, they couldn't, more than 50% of that lot would have to have a setback from the residential to the west. So having it being auto would be impractical. But they can still request it. And they could also request open-air businesses, group daycare homes, funeral homes, and then financial institutions with drive-through facilities are permitted, or can be approved through the special use process. So they could request those as well.
Well, let's move on, and then we can get to discussion later, just to clear this up. Next we would have presentation by the applicant. The applicant's not present, so we'll move on. I would open the public hearing for this at 7:29. Ask if anyone is interested in speaking on this item. Seeing no one, is there any written communications concerning this item?
There are none.
There are none? Okay. So seeing no one and having no written communication, I'll close the public hearing at 7:30. And we'll open it up for discussion with the Planning Commission. Is there any comments or questions from the commission?
Well, I agree with your concern about it going that close to residential. I think we had another property where you know, the building was on Ford Road, and okay, you need the back for parking or whatever, but the fact that this is its own piece of property, I think offering it up as a C2 opens it up to too many disruptive business types. You can't control that, so.
I don't think it's really fair to the residents in the area.
No, not with the ability to put whatever you want. in there.
Right.
Yeah, you could sell the lots, and then that would be rezoned for anybody else to do
Yeah.
if they wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, I wish the applicant was here to maybe give us some more perspective on what they were thinking, and maybe I would be more open to it, but based upon the proposal and, you know, that, without that context, I have a hard time with it.
Any other comments or questions?
Can I ask just a kind of a point of order? So our options today would be to not recommend. If we do that, does that close it out for 6 months or something? I can't recall.
Well, the applicant, if it is denied, then they can't request an approval for 1 year.
That's a year.
For any type of new rezoning to the site.
Okay. So it would be that or table it if we thought.
I don't see any reason to table it, but any other comments or questions?
Just from my understanding, tabling it, that would mean it.
It would
goes
just
to
come
the
up
next-
again at the next meeting.
Okay. Do we? Okay. We want to do that to see if the applicant comes and actually is here, or does it not change?
I mean, I think it's a 90% chance not changing.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Because I guess my concern is even if the applicant was to be here, and I'm trying to kind of give everyone the benefit of the doubt here, but even if the applicant came and said, okay, I'm going to do a medical office and it's going to be 8 to 4 and no disruption, well, he might keep it a year and sell it, and now it says, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would not come back to us. It's now a C2. So that the next owner.
Right. So technically, if you did make a recommendation of approval to a straight C2, then if it goes to city council, if city council approves it, then you're absolutely right. Then it can be bought and sold, and the next person can come, and whatever use is permitted in the C2 or whatever, they can either have those by right, and then the other uses, they could request a special land use. So they would go through the process.
Switching it to the C2, just deny it and then allow him to come with a special use. He could come with a special use within the year, right?
Well, he couldn't, the special use would be only for what's the current zoning, so it'd only be the R3.
For a special use.
Yeah, it'd be
now.
only
It's
R3.
For residential.
Yeah, I think R3, it's like nursing home, school.
Correct. Yeah, basically, yeah, exactly. And
Anything
childcare
available in
centers
R3.
and that sort of thing.
Not a medical office, no.
No,
No,
I looked at no medical.
no, it's not. So the only other alternative for them, and I guess we'd have to make a determination, is if they came and requested if it gets denied, the rezoning gets denied, then they can't request any new rezoning for 1 year.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
One other thought, and I'm sorry, I'm really trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. Is there another zone that we think would be more appropriate?
The only other zone that would be less intensive would be the C1, the local commercial. There are different schools of thought on whether that would be of a spot zone issue or whether that's more of a transitional issue. Because I always talk about transition uses. We go from commercial uses to multifamily residential to single family. Some people think if you have intense commercial uses like a C3 or C2, you can slowly transition by having a C1 be the buffer and then have multifamily and then have single family, so that the activities on the sites go down at a more gradual transition than what we normally have. But it's still then it would be a C1 adjacent to there, and then within the C1 they're permitted office
That is the
uses.
spot zone.
Yeah.
we really can't, we shouldn't set a precedent like that.
That's the other aspect of it, is like, it's a bad
I'm just trying to
precedent.
show we've vetted, you know.
No,
we've vetted
understood.
out,
Yeah,
make sure
yeah.
We've
Sure.
thought through it. Yeah.
But yeah,
Someone care to make a motion? Recommendation?
I will make a motion to recommend the denial of PPZ 25-0005, request to establish a rezone of the lot at 30719 Crowder Avenue from R3 multiple family residential to C2 business, community business.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. Would you take the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Walls,
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels,
Aye.
Chairperson May.
Aye.
Motion does carry.
Okay. Moving on. Schedule of public hearings for the following. Public hearing to be considered for a special land use for carryout restaurant in the C1 Local Business Zoning District at 1859 Inkster Road.
this is the new.
Know what that is now?
Yes, this is the new, well, relatively new multi-tenant building right there at Inkster and John Hawk. And it,
The one they just built?
the one they just built, right now they've got the barber shop, they got the pharmacy, and now they, on the corner unit, they'd like to put in a carryout restaurant. This is C1, so C1, while they have to go through special land use review just to make sure that the carryout restaurant is appropriately scaled, given the amount of residences adjacent to the site, so.
Okay.
We're just requesting we hold the public hearing to discuss the consideration.
Any comments? No question? No? Motion to set a public hearing?
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the C1 Local Business Zoning District at 1859 Inkster Road for a special land use for a carryout restaurant.
I second.
What would the date of that be?
July 10th.
Yeah, that's our next regular meeting.
Yes.
Is there support of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Daniels.
Any comments on the motion? Take the roll, please.
Commissioner Walls,
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner King,
Aye.
Chairperson May.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have a public hearing to consider a plan development rezoning for parking lot on the south side of Pardo, east of Middlebelt Road, to be associated with the plan development at 29317 Ford Road. This is the additional parking for that development.
That is correct. The applicant is moving forward, and they've heard your concerns, and they have already submitted an application to make sure that the parking is sufficient for the site, for the development, I should say.
Okay. Questions?
I'll make a motion for a public hearing to consider a PUD rezoning for a parking lot on the south side of Pardo Avenue, east of Middlebelt Road, to be associated with the PUD at 29317 Ford Road.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the motion?
Nope.
Take the roll, please.
Yes, Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Walls,
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels,
Aye.
Chairperson May.
Aye. And we had one more public hearing request. You want to go over that with us again?
Sure. So at the last council meeting, the proprietor of the new House of Dank, the new medical and adult use marijuana grower, processor, storefront, had commented that Garden City was unique in that we do not allow them to be open on Sundays. And so I happened to listen to that meeting, and I thought it would Again, maybe it's not time, they just opened, but at least we have a conversation on whether we think we should have a public hearing to consider it. I just always try to think of how do we keep the city competitive and, new businesses opening and keeping them open. And if
Yeah.
Westland and surrounding cities, Sunday is not a factor, I think we should at least be asking ourselves, why is it a factor for us?
Do we know if these businesses are open in the surrounding cities?
I'm going on his word. I have not done the,
Correct, I have not done research either.
And can we find out before we have a public hearing?
Just to provide some a little additional context, I've written other ordinances for other communities, and they have put in restrictions on Sunday hours. Some have not. It's just a personal preference for whether they do or they do not feel it's something applicable to their neighbor, to their community.
What are the reasons for limiting?
Mainly because actually sometimes what they've heard from the operators is the operators are the ones that let them know that Friday nights and Saturday nights are typically their most busiest nights, or busiest days of which they're selling product. So they in terms of the level of traffic, the level of activity on the site, they wanted to try and mitigate that and provide kind of a relief from customers after having it on Friday and Saturday. They're like, all right, the adjacent properties have experienced heavy traffic for 2 nights in a row, so let's have one day for a respite, basically. It does look like, though, in Inkster, at least the first one I've seen, the Flower Bowl over on Inkster and Cherry Hill, they are open on Sunday from 9 to 6.
And the Westland, the closest to Live, is Sunday 10 to 9.
So they are.
Yeah, so they have some open in Westland and Inkster.
Yeah, and
If we
Inkster,
did
same
this,
thing.
We
Sorry.
could restrict the hours of,
Absolutely, yeah. Because just another point of reference, at least the other one I know of off the bat in Inkster, the Vibe at Cherry Hill and Middle Belt, they are open 9 to 6 on Sunday as well, where there is open 9 to 9 every other day of the week.
okay.
Does the state level have limits on?
No,
on
the
sales?
state doesn't regulate the hours of operations. That's one thing they do leave for the local community to determine. So that's why you have seen, and I will admit that the Sunday restriction was early on in the review and approval process for these uses. Like I said, we're trying to craft ordinances that would allow, and similar to what the city has done, allow for a slow transition and slow growth of them into. We've had medical for the longest time, and we didn't adopt adult until after, other communities had the opportunity to experience the industry. So now it's, it has been in the region that we are seeing more of them, and they're starting to become more available in the area. So how the city wants to modify them, it's up to you. You could also have a public hearing just to gauge input, to see if anybody would see what people's residents' opinion is about changing that required restriction.
and maybe just while the commissioners think about it, I'm looking at the ordinance now, and ours says 9 to 9, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 10, Friday and Saturday, and then no sales on Sunday.
Mhm. Checking other facilities in Inkster, they all of them so far are closing at 9 p.m. 6 days of the week, and then Sunday 9 to 6.
Yeah, I know there was a push for later hours on
There
for
was.
Saturday.
I don't really see a reason to limit it on, not Sunday, but I mean, I guess that's also the public hearing.
Yeah. Well, if we did allow it on Sunday, I think we should limit it more.
Yeah, cut
think
it
that's
down,
fine.
but I mean, if they have
I
the,
don't see a problem with it being open for a
It-
period, but
Especially given, I think the city's done a nice job about saying it's got to be in, I believe it's the M1, so we have,
contained.
we have it very contained, and therefore, letting this business be successful by giving them some hours of operation on Sunday, if we said 9 to 5 or whatever. It just seemed reasonable.
We're not seeing issues on the other days. so it's-
Right, and it's a beautiful building. If you've driven past it, I think they've done a very nice job dressing it up.
I will say that the vast majority, almost all of them that I've ever interacted with, they do have, they do make a substantial effort to make them designed well, operate well, and so far, so good. They've been, whenever a municipality requests something of them, they comply, because they understand it's a new market, so.
What if we were to, have a public hearing, and then maybe if Mr. Miller would get the police chiefs? Is there any reason why?
Yeah, we can have a recommendation from them.
And then,
yeah.
is there any reason why that would be a
If they don't
concern?
want
And
to attend the public hearing, they can give us a recommendation.
if we don't get any negative customer, I think I'm at work still. If we don't get any negative citizen feedback, then we would move forward.
Also, just a side note, Chairperson May, is that there were just a couple other locations that met the requirement in our ordinance, and we haven't had anything move forward on the other two kind of spots that were acquired for this purpose. So I don't know, if the,
Having
this
extended
one is
hours
just corporate
may
market.
encourage them?
Yeah, correct, so, or not, I don't know, is there gonna be competition or not, I guess, is what I'm trying to think, and so far we haven't seen it, but, of course, we've opened the door, so we're waiting, I guess, so.
Well, if it seems too restricted, I can see why they would be hesitant to do anything, but if they feel that they're competitive, I think probably they would move ahead. So do we have a motion on the floor?
I mean, if the commissioners will entertain one, I'll be happy to make it. I'll make a motion to hold a public hearing regarding zoning ordinance 154.165G2, which pertains to the hours of operation for medical and adult use marijuana facilities in the city, with the inclusion of the chief of police's perspective on whether that is of any concern.
Second?
Second? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, take the roll, please.
Yes, that is Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Walls,
Aye.
Chairperson May.
Aye.
The motion does carry.
So that would also be July 10th.
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, with regards to this, typically we would have draft language for any ordinance when we hold the public hearing, so they have something for the public to react to. Would you like me to prepare something where we proposed a certain set of hours on Sunday? And then,
sample ordinance?
that'd be simple. It'd be whatever you tell me what hours it'll be, we'll put it on there and then see what it is.
10 to 6, 9 to 6.
9 to 6,
Yeah, I think the cutoff at 6 is good.
I agree.
Okay.
So,
9 to
Well,
6 or 10 to
We can include that
6?
in the amendment.
6?
10 to 6, okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Commissioners' comments regarding planning and zoning matters. Commissioner Daniels, do you have anything?
Thanks for helping me on my first day here. Other than that, no, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, welcome to the commission. Mr. Walsh.
I'm good.
Mr. King?
Just is it bar 153, whatever that used to be? It seems as though it's in pieces.
So, a couple of things. So I will say at least this applicant has been moving forward because we've had multiple people propose different projects. They did propose initially that they were going to tear down a portion of the building in the rear and then renovate the building. However, once they started the demolition process, they kind of fell. I was going to say that structural issues came up, but basically because the rest of it started to fall down because it had been so long neglected after the fire that it just all came down. Then they were starting to having some issues with, I believe they had some soil issues with regards to the site. So the original construction documents needed to be adjusted to make sure the foundations and the things that they were going to install for the building meet the building code and structural engineering requirements. So they've been going through and they have provided revised plans, and they just came in today, actually, to pay their latest revision to the building permit. So hopefully, then we'll start seeing construction soon. And then, I don't know if you're made aware, but what the issue will be is this property owner owns the Bar 153, and then they did buy the vacant building to the adjacent to it, which was the jewelry store. And then additional property with being that parking lot next to the jewelry store to the east, and then also even what is right now a barber shop. So they bought all that property, which made it much better because for them now, any tenants that are going to be in the new building will have access directly off of Ford Road, whereas in the past, always the conundrum was they were going to have to park in the rear, and they will be having parking along off the alley, to the north of the, like on the south side of the alley, because the building will not extend the full length from Ford Road to the alley. It'll end about 25 feet from the edge of the alley, so that way people can park in the back. Because they actually, while historically, those other adjacent kitty corner parking lot that used to be there, that's right on Crowder right there, that used to be owned by the same person, but then eventually they got sold separately. So now someone else owns those 3 vacant lots on Crowder, between the 2 apartment buildings. So they don't have, right now, they've talked about it, but right now they don't have to, and at least based on the size of the building and this additional parking they've acquired, it will function as a shopping center parking standard. And all of these approvals were predicated on a renovation of the building. So that's why it was never brought to you, because it was always a renovation that did not meet criteria for full site plan approval. It was always modifications. So
Thank you. That's all I have.
the facade will be very attractive too, just by the way. It'll actually be modern again.
Did you have anything else for us, Mr. Ortega?
Nope, nothing else.
Miller? Nothing? Okay. Our next regular Planning Commission meeting will be Thursday, July 10th, 2025, and I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Support? Motion's made and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned.